We have our last presenter for the panel and for the day. I'm happy to welcome Donna Crenshaw, who's she's the Executive Director of MEDx, and if you haven't heard of MEDx is Medicine and Engineering at Duke, which is a collaborative between the School of Medicine and the Pratt School of Engineering. We just met, so what I do know about her is she has a background in biochemistry and has researched both from the academic and industry perspective. So I'm hopeful we're going to learn more about this program in ways that CFAR can be linked with it. So, welcome.
Great. Well, thanks for the invitation to speak, and I'm very happy to be here. And I know I'm at the end of a long day of talk, so I will try to be concise. So yes, MEDx. So really, the goal for MEDx is to enhance the existing ties and foster new collaborations between the schools of medicine and engineering. This all really began or crystallized with a town hall that was held last April and sponsored by or hosted by Nancy Andrews. So really we're an initiative that's a year old. MEDx itself was created about August of last year, and with joint funding from the schools of medicine, engineering, and also the provost. And it should be noted that this is an initiative rather than a center, right? So we are a small group, and we're not encumbered, I guess, by a lot of overhead. So really, we're building on a strong foundation and a strong history of collaboration between medicine and engineering at Duke. From Duke came the first accredited biomedical engineering major, the development of clinical ultrasound, the cochlear implant, the first bioabsorbable stent, and bioengineered vasculature. And then the inventions continue with drug and device innovation, tissue engineering, especially now with Regeneration Next, with reverse engineering the brain, digital health applications, which actually may be very pertinent to the kind of work that you do, and also really in the basic sciences. And we're hoping to increase the collaboration in education, as you'll see. So the initiative here at Duke is really building on a national initiative with a lot of grand challenges through, in health and medicine, for example, from the National Academy of Medicine, the National Association for Engineers grand challenges, and they now have 3 grand challenges that relate specifically to health. The President's Precision Medicine Initiative, and also the Congressional 21st Century Cures. So really this whole national groundwork really reflects what the goals are between the School of Medicine and Pratt, really to enhance the intersection of clinical medicine, basic science, and engineering, to impact, in the end, education at the intersection of all of these disciplines, to advance translation. So really the translation of those basic discoveries to patient care so that they can have, in the end, the maximum impact on health. What's the advantage? It's a top 10 medical school with a top-tier hospital, a top 10 biomedical engineering program, and each of the other engineering disciplines is also growing in prominence. It has a nice little engine for translational research with the $20 million Duke Culture Translational Partnership, strong clinical research and IT infrastructure, and a lot of interdisciplinary hubs that really push or promote the interdisciplinary collaborations, and really the sort of those great discoveries that come out of collisions between different people coming with different skill sets. And these include the Global Health Institute, the Information Initiative at Duke, the Translational Research Institute, the CTSI, which was recently announced, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the Duke Institute for Brain Sciences, CFAR, obviously. One of the things that really Duke has that is quite unique to Duke, when you think of the other major medical schools that also have major engineering programs, and that's the physical proximity of the two schools. It's challenging. Most places have, at least a car ride or a bus ride across town to be able to interact with your colleagues in the other school. Leadership, Jeff Ginsberg, who's also the director for the Center for Applied Genomics and Precision Medicine, and I work for Jeff in that realm also. Jeff's a director, and Jeff himself has been very successful in finding ways to collaborate with partners in engineering, both in the analytical, in data analytics, and also in terms of advanced diagnostics. And Ken Gall. Ken Gall arrived from Georgia Tech about a year ago now as the new chair for mechanical engineering and material sciences. MEDx is small, and so we really rely heavily on collaboration with outside groups, and we certainly benefit from the steering committee that we have that is interdisciplinary and draws from both the School of Medicine and Pratt, and the steering committee members are listed here. MEDx, as I said, is really only a year old, but I think we've accomplished a fair amount in that time. I'll go through some of these things individually, but I think some of the highlights of the MEDx Cafe, and thanks to Herman, who turned up at the cafe one day and reached out to learn more about MEDx and figure out how we may collaborate. I'm here today. We've established Interschool Colloquia to get new conversations going, where between biomedical scientists and engineers. We have seeded pilot projects. We have a joint hire request for proposals out right now that is actually getting ready to close. We've instigated some educational programs that I'll tell you about, and we will have our first distinguished lecture on October 20th, and I hope you can make it to that. It'll be here, and our speaker will be Robert Fischel, who's a physicist and an entrepreneur in the medical device space. Building MEDx. So this really comes in 4 buckets: community development, educational programs, the science, and translation and entrepreneurship. So in community development, one of the first, biggest, most, I guess, obvious things that we have is our website, and I hope you go and check that out, particularly the events, and also when we have the MEDx Cafe, which is really our office hours, every Wednesday from 10:30 to noon. Next week we're up outside of Nash. The following week we're at 20s, and we alternate between the two. There's also what Jeff likes to call social engineering. In addition to the MEDx Cafe, we have sponsored lunches to get students to start talking to faculty or other students who are in the opposite discipline, and look for hopefully collaborative research opportunities or other ways to interact. As I said, we've funded 6 Interschool Colloquia, and these were really diverse. So it's a $5,000 funding opportunity to develop a conversation around a new topic, or if you've really started having conversations but you want to take it to the next level. This is an opportunity to do this, and we'll be announcing our next round of funding. Hopefully at the end of this week. I might get it up on the website early next week, but we'll wait and see. So please think about how you might benefit from reaching out to a colleague in engineering and starting a new conversation around a topic that's of interest to, or that might be pertinent to AIDS research. But as you can see, it's a really diverse series of colloquia that we funded last time. In the educational realm, this is very nascent for us. We have a few initiatives that we are trying to get off the ground, and a couple of that are a little bit further along. We have priorities. We really like to reach across the educational space, from undergraduates through to the trainees in medicine. So the med students, interns, and fellows, as well as Ph.D. candidates in engineering. And also the master's candidates in engineering, who tend to have a little more time, perhaps, than their Ph.D. counterparts. One of the programs that was launched this summer was really instigated by David Ranney, who's a general surgery resident, and this has been coined Innovate MD. And the goal is really to link these surgeons with engineers and master's students. And these groups will coalesce around a clinical problem that's been identified. So, for example, Ken has been collecting ideas that he's heard about from clinical faculty. And so the hope is that these groups will coalesce around an idea, develop it, and then proceed through prototyping. The initiative also will include some didactic learning, mostly through seminars, really around how do you prototype, how do you design, how do you conceptualize a problem. into regulatory affairs, and how do you fund once you get past maybe that initial seed funding? How do you go out and actually do the translation? Another really great way that we found that we can expand our reach is by including a little bit of sponsorship. So we had an undergraduate student, Akhil Jain, come to us. He's a mechanical engineer and material science undergrad. He was interested in developing a startup conference. He got 120 people from across campus. He got outside speakers. Really very motivated young man. And it was a great experience for all, and I think a lot of learnings came out of that. For the med students, again, this is a self-formed group, the Medical Engineering Interest Group, that I think includes about 140 people on their mailing list, including some of the engineers, primarily the master students in engineering. They have lunch speakers, clinician researchers, engineering grad students. They've had a design night where they critique the designs from some of the BME undergrads in their design classes. So one of the goals with the MEDx is now sponsoring this group, and one of the goals that we hope to have is to develop in their third year, their research year, opportunities to actually do research in an engineering discipline at Duke. Developing the science. So one of the major ways that we've really promoted cross-disciplinary science between engineering and medicine is through our pilot projects. And the first program that we participated in was really the collaborative quantitative approaches to problems in the basic and clinical sciences that came out of the Vice Provost for Research's office. And this was really trying to target interactions or promote interactions between the two schools in the area of quantitative science and medicine. MEDx also promoted had a competitive call for pilot funding in the area of diagnostics and devices. And that was, we reached out and created a syndicate with surgery, medicine, orthopedics, neurosurgery, DHI, the CTSA, and mechanical engineering and material science so that we could actually expand our reach and fund more projects at a level of $50,000 each. And we funded 6 programs, and as you can see, they ran the gamut, really, from miniaturizing an apheresis device for use in newborns, using high-intensity ultrasound in conjunction with immunotherapeutics to improve cancer treatment, creating a microphysiological system for to look at tumor cell behaviors in a much more, I guess, natural environment. A catheter, devices for improving tendon to bone healing in the orthopedic surgery space, and a new design for a point-of-care diagnostic tool. One other point that, an area that I think may be particularly useful for those of you in CFAR who have large data sets is that within the data science group, we've built collaborations with not only within engineering, people like Larry Caron, who has a big interest in data analytics and predictive modeling, but also with the Information Initiative at Duke and a program called Data Plus. Data Plus is a very interesting model where groups of undergraduate students are teamed over the summer with a graduate student and or postdoc, and really under the direction of faculty to work on a data problem. So if you have a data problem, if you're sitting on a cache of data that is just waiting for somebody who has the time and the effort and the energy to commit to producing a product, then come and talk to us, because we'd like to be able to put you in touch with these students and maybe build a project around it. Over the last summer, 6 teams worked on health projects. There were a lot more teams. I think there were maybe 24 teams, and 6 of them focused on health-related projects. And they all benefit from the team environment and learning from each other, and actually produce some really neat stuff at the end of the summer. We are closing very soon joint hire RFP, where we will be hopefully, where we will be joining in funding for colleagues who are true joint appointments in both a department in medicine and an engineering department. And we're really excited to see what comes through with that effort. And these new hires will be MEDx investigators. And finally, in translation and entrepreneurship, the goal for MEDx is to really exist across the translational pipeline, from discovery research, partnering with the School of Medicine and Pratt, through the translational space and leveraging what already exists here, really with DHI, with Coulter, with the CTSI now, and then also into commercialization with innovation entrepreneurship and OLV. We interact with a lot of people who actually do span, who have translated ideas and gotten them out into companies, formed companies, licensed them, but it's only really through the translational space and that we do manage to bring some of these really novel discoveries into patient care. So it is an important component. So really for this group, I just want to, I guess, hope that you'll go away and think about opportunities for us to collaborate. We have a first one, thanks again to Herman for bringing this up, and that we will be jointly sponsoring with CFAR a small grant, and hopefully that will be announced later this year. And we're really excited to see what kinds of proposals that brings in. For this, you'll be really tasked to find your engineering counterpart and to develop a truly interdisciplinary proposal. Are there other areas where we could participate or MEDx could facilitate introductions? One of the functions that we regard that we do have is as a navigator. We would hope to help people in one school find a counterpart in the other. So really think about data analytics and predictive modeling, sensors and devices, diagnostics, digital health. Again, facilitation with engagement and anything else that you can think of. Come and talk to us at the cafe. It's a great collision time. Sometimes it's just me sitting with my laptop, and other times there are a lot of people sitting around, and actually those are the great times. Come in and join the crowd, because even if you don't get anything helpful from one of the MEDx people, you may actually learn something great from one of the other people sitting around the table, and we've actually seen that work. So thank you again for the invitation.